student knows who their counselor is. Sometimes when the kids are doing great, they don't need us that much, but end of junior year, senior year, we usually get to know them pretty well. We also have a college career counselor, and she's organizing a lot of our events. So we have colleges visiting, for example. The kids can sign up for those on Naviance. We have GDC coming for some of our seniors. She posts all the scholarship information, so all of that is on our website. We also have a MFT that works on staff, and sometimes students come to us and we can refer them to her. So they usually come through their counselor if they have some kind of special concern they want to talk about. So, what do we see your students about? Sometimes we're nagging them about grades, or they have a concern about a grade or a test or a teacher. We talk about course advisement, so what are they going to take next year? Right now we're very busy into the college career, making sure our kids are graduating, and there's lots of college activity, letters of rec, essay writing, reviewing, and stuff like that. And then also personal, social, emotional. So some kids feel very comfortable coming in. They had a breakup with their significant other, things like that. So we kind of do it all. For students, they can see us before school, lunch, brunch, after school. We often have a lot of meetings after school. They can shoot us an email. And then for parents, I would definitely email, or you can call us, but email will always be faster. Supporting your child as a junior. They're becoming young adults, and we want them to kind of learn to handle things on their own if possible with our support. So just keep monitoring their grades, keep up with our website and the bulletin. Encourage them to talk to their teacher or counselor if they have questions. And then this summer, there's a lot of work as juniors if they're planning on going to college, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year. Just basically doing some research so you can discuss college options, financial feasibility, how close or far you want them, and maybe discussions about majors and things like that. And then if kids are applying to a lot of different 4-year colleges, I highly recommend setting up a spreadsheet so they can keep track of due dates, essays, supplemental essays, all of that. So showing them how to kind of organize and then let them kind of handle it from there. We just met with juniors a couple weeks ago, and we kind of talked about these things that they can do to be better students. So again, they should be monitoring their grades, talking to teachers. We have homework help in room B7 every afternoon except for Fridays from 3:30 to 4:30, where we have some wonderful, very bright and kind seniors that can help with any subject. So they just have to come in. Hopefully they have a structured study time at home. They have to learn how to study. That becomes super important in college because you might only have like 2 tests and that's your whole grade. So learning to study is key. Using some kind of organizational tool. Schoology has a calendar for them. They can use a Google Calendar or they can use like a planner, whatever they want, but something that keeps them organized. And then, of course, we want them to hopefully set their phones down once in a while, get some sleep, maybe do some exercise, and just kind of have fun with friends and family. So a balanced life is a good one. And then in high school, as you guys are probably aware by now, just missing a day can really set kids back. So being here as much as possible. Just because if you happen to miss a test and work, you're like scrambling to figure it all out, and you have to talk to all your teachers. It can get really complicated. But also, they can always email teachers as well if they're home to ask questions. So on our website, we have a calendar, we have a newsletter, we have our counseling website. This PowerPoint will be on there, so you can just click on that. And then our athletic calendar. And then graduation requirements. You guys are kind of far into it, but next year your students will be really kind of at the last part of fulfilling their graduation requirements. So just briefly, they need 4 years of English, 3 history, 3 of science, 3 years of math, specifically algebra, geometry, algebra 2, 2 years of the same language, a visual performing art, 2 years of PE, 1 college prep elective, and then 40 electives. So the juniors were kind of freaking out about their electives, but as long as they have enough overall credit as seniors, all of those classes will start flowing into elective. So they just have to make it to 230 and all will be well, and we're definitely monitoring that, especially senior year. We're aligned to the UC CSU A through G requirements, so when any student here graduates, they should be eligible to attend one of our Cal State or UC campuses, and also many other private schools as well. So part of that being aligned with A through G is that we do not accept Fs, of course, but we also don't accept D grades, which other high schools do, so they have to get a C or better. They should be earning 30 credits each semester. If something does go awry, we have lots of options for them to make up classes. We have fall and spring Edgenuity, so there are kids that are working online now to make up classes. We will have a winter intersession. There are private online providers where sometimes kids can't fit this in their schedule, so they choose to pay for a class with an accredited online provider, and we can tell you who those are. We have summer school. Some kids will take a class in community college, or they can retake a course if necessary. So if something did go awry, we highly recommend that everything gets kind of cleaned up before senior year. So if they're filling out their college apps, it's all clear. So if they need something this summer, they need to be here, definitely. And then, of course, we've got what we call AP classes, and we also have some honors classes on our campus. So an honors class is an advanced version of a class. For example, like honors chemistry. It's just more and deeper, and usually the kids in honors are really into that subject. And then we have what we call AP classes. The curriculum is set by the College Board, the people that create the SAT. It's a college level class taught on our campus, and at the end of the year in May, they take a test, and if they get a certain score on that test, a 3, 4, or 5, they will usually get college credit. And I'm saying usually because it will depend on where they go and what their major is and what their score was. So there's some variables, but it's a good kind of peek into college level work, but it is college level work, so it's deep and definitely a lot more homework. Kids get a grade bump for these. So if an A is worth 4 points on a transcript, if it's an AP class or an honors class, instead of a 4, it would be a 5. And that's how kids get like a 4-point something. We don't want our students to overload, because remember that slide a few slides ago about having a balanced life? So sometimes kids do overload and get really stressed out, and it's not a good situation. So because of that, the UCs and the CSUs, trying to bring some sanity into this whole application process, have what we call a cap GPA, where they're only going to look at 8 semesters of your AP or honors work. They will also look at things uncapped as well, but that's kind of their policy. And I can take questions really quickly about this if you have any. Okay. If you have an athlete, this is the year they would sign up on the NCAA website. I would definitely, if they plan to play in college, have them meet with their counselor or Ms. Cash so we can make sure that they're meeting all the NCAA requirements, which are actually a little bit different from the UC-CSU graduation requirements. So you want to make sure that they're hitting all the marks there. And then college planning. So as I said, right now their main goal is just to get good grades, try to maybe do a little research into what they might be interested in, and they're just experiencing life. But this summer, we want them to actually do some things, consider majors, consider where they want to attend. So hopefully when they come back as seniors, they have kind of a list. This is where I think I want to apply, and this is the major I think I want to apply into. There's lots of ways to go to college. There's community colleges. We have the CSUs. There's 23 of those. We have 9 UCs, and there's lots of private and out-of-state colleges that are available. So the CSUs, there's 23 campuses. What do they want? They want those A through G requirements, and again, we're aligned to those, so they're already doing it. They want a minimum of a 2.5, and they will consider students at a 2.0. Some of these campuses are impacted, which means they have more applications than spaces, and that causes that 2.5 to go way, way up. So in California, there's 2 that are probably the most popular. San Diego State. Who doesn't want to live in San Diego? It has the best weather in the whole country. And then Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So that, for those schools, it pushes that GPA up to like around a 4.1 average. Here's some examples. And then the University of California, we have 9 undergrad campuses. They want, again, A through G. Their minimum is a 3.0. They're going to ask your students to give them a list of all the extracurricular activities that they've done. So that's something they could also work on in the summer, just kind of trying to remember everything they've done. That can include helping younger siblings, if they're taking care of younger siblings, or maybe there's someone older living in your house, having a job, doing a sport. It can be a million different things. So they just kind of want to know what they're doing when they're not at school. And then they ask for 4 short essays, 350 words each, and they give them 8 to pick from. I've been spending a lot of time reading those right now because they're due soon. And they are not going to consider any testing. So neither the CSUs or the UCs will look at testing. So they're test-free. No, it was a lawsuit, so it's not changing anytime soon. Here's some averages for our 9 campuses, and then I also have the admit rates. So anything around 25 or below is pretty tough. UCLA had 140,000 applications last year. So that kind of ends up with a 10% admit rate. And then there's millions of out-of-state colleges, either public or private. They are going to want similar to A through G. They might want like an extra year of math, but we want all of our seniors to take math because it doesn't make sense to take a year off math and then go to college and have math again. So that should cover them. There's usually a longer essay. It's 650 words. Sometimes there's letters of recommendation. Why go out of state? It's a new experience. Sometimes there's higher admit rates. Sometimes it's easier to get classes depending on where you are. They want a diverse student body, so if you're a strong student, they may lure you with some money or scholarship money. And then we also have what we call WUI, which is our regional tuition agreement. What local states, not all colleges, because you don't have to participate, but will give you a discount on an out-of-state tuition rate to get you to come. So like a good example would be UNR, University of Hawaii Manoa. So you can look on this, look at a particular school, see what the GPA requirements are, if they have any limitations in terms of majors, but sometimes that's an interesting way to go as well. Here's some of our popular kind of averages, but all of these schools on this list are what we call test optional. So if your student took an SAT and it was above their average, since it's optional, we would say you can submit it. So I'll talk about testing a little bit. It's a very confusing landscape right now, but these are just some popular ones. And many students go without a test score. Okay, I kind of talked about this. Is this a double slide? Okay. Here's some private schools in our area. Now again, these tests are test optional, so students that have good scores are submitting. So if you look at USC, their average test score right now is a 1520. That's insanely high for them. And it's because only the kids with super high scores are submitting their scores. But that's kind of an average GPA. For USC, I think the GPA is a little low and the test score is a little high. Okay, so testing. We had testing available this year during our College Bound Day. So some kids decided to take the PSAT, some took the SAT, some decided not to test at all, which is completely fine. If a student knows they're only applying to optional or free schools, you have to decide if you want to put them through the whole testing thing. But some schools are requiring tests. So like the states of Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, those state colleges require an SAT or ACT test. And then some of the elite kind of Ivies have all, or not all of them have brought them back, but it seems like a trend that they're bringing them back. So Stanford, I think this year is optional, but next year required. Brown wants them again, Caltech, MIT, Georgetown, and on and on. If you are applying to those kinds of schools, you're going to need a really strong test score, so students are going to have to test probably more than one time. And if that's the case for your student, I would have them meet with their counselor so they can kind of plan out their testing schedule. And then I just kind of gave you some upcoming dates. Again, you can access all of this when you look on our PowerPoint. We also have free prep. So there's free prep on the sites. And then we also have a contract with Alberto. Is it 1.10? IO. And then we have 114 community colleges. So why do students go to a community college? Sometimes it's for financial reasons. They can have the first 2 years of their college for free and then transfer. Some are getting vocational training. Let's say they want to be ultrasound tech. We have some schools that have that machinery and offer that degree. And that's a great way to do that because you're getting 2 years of your schooling for free. So there's all kinds of reasons. And sometimes kids just really don't know what they want to, they're kind of not settled on a major and they want to kind of explore. So that's another option. So basically to get this 2 years of free California community college education, you just have to be a full-time student, click their little promise. You have to take at least 12 units and have a minimum 2.0, be a California resident, and you have to fill out the FAFSA every year. So that's a great money-saving situation. Community colleges, the students usually will apply in the spring of their junior year. Although we do have some kids doing it now, we have kind of a program, but it's not as rushed as the other four-year application process. So for the 4 years, everything will be said and done by January 1. The UCCSUs are due November 30th usually. This year it's December 2nd. There are some programs where you can apply early. That's usually November 1. That's for out-of-state or private schools sometimes. And if you're doing regular decision for an out-of-state or private, it's November 1. January 1. But this can be done in the spring of their senior year. So if kids are applying to four-year institutions, we want them to have a balanced list because everyone knows those brand names, and because they're brand names and they have great reputations, they have way too many applications, and then you get those very small admit rates. So if we looked at the UCLA had the lowest admit rate at 10%, but if we're talking about like Stanford, Caltech, Harvard, they're all around the 3%, which is crazy. So yes, it's great to have the reach schools, the hard to get intos, because you may get in. But then you also have to have some that are target, like your GPA is kind of right in line, and then some that are likely. You may be over that GPA. And then in terms of scholarship money, it's going to be really hard to get money usually at a reach unless you have financial need, because all of their students are crazy amazing, so that a lot of the IBs don't even give scholarships. It's just only financial need. But if I am like a 3.8 GPA and I'm applying to a 3.2 average school, if that school really wants me, they could offer me some scholarships. So that's usually your best bet. Every kid's on a different range, and that's totally fine. There's so many schools they can apply to. So we want them to have a few of each of those. So they can research colleges hopefully this summer on our free tool, Naviance. And usually like 5 to 8 is the average. I've seen 20. And then I guess when I was talking about all those essays that the schools require, the more elite and hard to get in schools are, like if I look at Stanford, they have their main big essay, 650 words, and then 5 supplements. So they also have to save some time for writing those extra essays. Things to consider: location. I think for parents, we want our kids close to us, but sometimes they go away. Do they have the major that I want? Do they have a study abroad program, which most do, and that's an amazing experience. You can study for a semester or a year out of the country for like the same cost of going to school here. Do they have good career services and internship programs? The size. Do you want a huge urban school like SF State or Berkeley, or do you want something small, suburban like St. Mary's? There's so many different ranges, so just having kids look at different kinds of colleges is always great. And then, of course, cost and affordability. So every college has what we call a net price calculator. So if I said University of Alabama, I could go on there and put my info in, this little calculator. I could just Google that. And they would tell you how much the school would cost you. It's an estimate. But based on your kid's GPA and your family income, they'll give you an idea. I would always have a financial safety, because sometimes kids do get into that dream school and then parents are like, we can't afford this. It's too much money. So that's always a heartbreaker. But you can do your research and kind of let your kids know what their budget is at some point. That's always really wise. And if your student is or if you're interested in them going to a community college and using that as their financial safety, that's wonderful too. And there go my glasses. There's also great training programs through trade schools and unions. Again, some of the community colleges are doing trade training for those 2 years for free. And then there's also the unions that will have programs. So you can be trained, for example, to be an electrician and get paid while you're learning. So that's amazing. So this is just some kind of fun info on kids that want to go straight to work in some specialized field where they can make a great living. So you can look at this after, and then there's also that link to kind of start doing some research there. And then there's the military. So next year, when your students are applying, you're going to have to fill out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. So for DVC, for example, for those 2 free years or any community college, you're filling that out. But pretty much for any college, you would fill that out, especially the first year. If you are eligible for federal money, or your student is, you're going to have to fill this out every year. It's pretty simple. They reduced the number of questions last year, which caused a major hiccup. But hopefully, when you guys are ready, it'll be smooth sailing. And then there's also the Cal Dream Act for people that are undocumented. So it's just something to keep in mind, nothing to worry about yet. And then, have you guys heard of Naviance? Have your students talked about it? It's our college career platform. So we have introduced them all to it. Again, they can search careers, they can do interest inventories, they can search for colleges, they can heart them and save them for later. They can sign up for our college visits on there. There's lots of great stuff for them on there. So I was telling them during their session that instead of going down the TikTok hole, they could go down the Naviance hole. And none of them, I said, I went home like, my jokes are no longer funny to teenagers. They did not like that. It's super easy for them to get on as long as they're on their school Google account. It's a single sign-on. And every... Okay. And then every year we have little tasks for them to do. We put it in their tasks, but they could do them at any time. So sometimes it's fun to do it as a 9th grader, and then again as a junior or senior, because, you know, the kids change a lot, so. Okay, so these are the things for summer. Yes? Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. You're welcome. So if your students are applying to 4-year colleges, these are super important. If they're planning on going to a 2-year, remember, I tell them next year in advisement, if you're going to a 2-year college to transfer, you're only there for 1 year, and then that next fall you're already applying. So it's just good for them to start researching and thinking about all the amazing possibilities. Like, you could be really into biology, but there's like a zillion things you could do with that interest. You could be a lawyer, you know, you could do, it's very wide. So it's fun to explore. We want them to research, and hopefully if you're somewhere and there's a college around, do a little drive-through just to kind of get the feel of different places. This summer, if they are applying to UCs or any privates, they should do pre-writing of essays, so when they come back, they're not all stressed out. That's very helpful. Make their preliminary college list. And again, they can do the spreadsheet and maybe a list of all their extracurriculars. All of that's on the list. I gave you a link to the Common App essay prompt. That's the longer one. And then the UCs. So I'm going to just kind of stop for a minute. So if next year when they're applying, there's 3 main portals that they're going to put all their information in. There's the CSU portal for those 23 colleges, and that application is really simple. They just have to self-report their grades, answer some questions, pick their schools and majors, and they will submit from there. The UC has their own portal, so if you're applying to any UC, it's all 9 campuses, you can apply from there. And again, you're gonna pick your schools and your majors. Here you're gonna list all your activities and you're gonna submit your 4 essays. And then anything out of state or private will be through another portal called the Common Application. So generally, some kids are just doing CSU, so those are always simple, but a lot of them are doing a little here, little there, so they'll be kind of all over the place. And they're really good with technology, so it's not a huge deal, and we're very available to help them with any questions that they have. Oh, thank you. I did it. Okay, so questions? Yes. So she was asking about alumni. Some schools do consider alumni as a factor, but none of our state schools do, but some of the private schools definitely. Because if you're an alumni, you're more likely to contribute, right? So it is something on the scale, but it's not a huge deal. The kid still has to be academically there, etc. But it can tip the scale a little bit. Yes? Yeah. So he was asking about number of applications beyond the UC-CSU. And again, I'm going to stick with, if I'm doing like 4 UCs, I would still stick with like maybe 4 or 5. It's sometimes really hard to get them to get their list down. My younger daughter had a lot of schools on her list, but they get just stretched very thin, and then their applications end up not being as good as they should be. So try to keep it real. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, right. We do application help. So right now we're in November, so we're in the library at lunch every single day. Yeah, so we're helping them there. And then a lot of seniors don't have, they have a shorter schedule. So I have a lot of kids that come in like 6th period because I don't have a 6th period. I have this one girl that doesn't have a 1st period for some reason, so she comes in the morning. So they figure it out. Yeah. They can always come to the library at lunch, yeah. Yes. Yeah, they're actually, the CSUs have a program. They have like agreements with certain majors, so it's going to really depend on where you want to go and if that major's in it. And then the UCs have their TAG program. So of the 9 UC campuses, they all participate except for UC San Diego, UCLA, and Berkeley. So for example, I could go to DVC. Let's say I want to go into engineering, so I'm taking on my pre-engineering, and I can tag UC Davis. But I have to have certain classes, a certain GPA. But if I do those things, I have a guaranteed spot at Davis. But that doesn't mean I still can't apply everywhere else. So let's say I do get into UC San Diego and I decide I like the smell of ocean better. No offense to Davis, we love Davis. The kids love Davis. But so you can still make those choices, but you do have a guaranteed spot, so that's a great feeling for the kids. On the TAG program, the TAG program you can look up online, but it's kind of something the students do with their counselor when they enter a community college. So whether they're going to a community college or any other kind of college, they should always be meeting with someone once every semester to make sure. I made my kids, I would text them, have you seen your advisor? Because I wanted them out in a timely manner because it was very expensive. And so they would probably eye roll, but they went to their advisor every semester, kind of plan what you're doing and make sure that you're all on track. So I highly advise that. Parental poke, yes. Yeah, we have this, the one we presented to the students is on our website, and then this one's already up. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you're going to apply. You will be applying through the UC, but you'll be applying as a transfer student. No. What you'll be applying, I believe, in the fall of your second year at DVC. So you have to have a certain amount of units to transfer. So students that are actually taking a full load, which is 15 credits a semester, will be on track to move along in 2 years. Mm-hmm. Well, if they're planning on participating in college, they would still register on the NCAA website and make sure they're taking the right courses. And then we upload transcripts for them and stuff like that. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes? They can change, but it's infrequent. Yeah. So you'll know, they'll have a really good idea, so they can work on them this summer. And then, there's some, I'm looking at essays now that could fit this prompt or that prompt. So if you did one that was off prompt a couple words, it's very easy to fix that. Yes.
It's under counseling events and presentations.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was something you have to kind of research because there's always different tuition programs. Like I know one of my friend's daughters got it's now like a doctorate for physical therapy, but if she worked in underserved communities for a while, they would repay some of her tuition. So that's kind of always a moving target. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's fun to work with your kiddos, and have a great night.